let's talk about who the greatest quarterback in Utah football history was. And so, Sammy, I'm going to let you go ahead and take a crack at this first.
So, I personally would argue Brian Johnson is the best quarterback to ever play at Utah. Now, we're going to we are just factoring in their time at Utah, their time repping that drum and feather on their helmet. That's it. We're not talking about seasons, like NFL seasons after that. But
well, that's because Brian Johnson didn't have any.
Okay, but he's still a very successful man. He is now the offensive coordinator at Florida. That's a big step. That's huge. After his brief stint as an offensive coordinator here, which didn't pan out very well at times, now he's the offensive coordinator of Florida. That's money moves. He will be a head coach at some point. I will put money on that. But I digress. He is the best, okay? Not only undefeated season, 2008, Sugar Bowl champs, took down Alabama out of all teams. He was a finalist for the Golden Arm Award and the Manning Award. He finished his career with a 26-7 record. He played as a true freshman on the same season as the other quarterback we will be debating for.
He only threw 20 passes, but yeah, okay. He played.
He was there. He was present for that undefeated season as well. He had a 66.2% completion rate. He threw for over 7,000 yards, 57 touchdowns, and only had 27 interceptions. That to me speaks numbers. Now, I know that Alex Smith, who you will be debating for, has a little bit more on the resume, but in my opinion, Brian Johnson has been the greatest quarterback Utah has ever had.
Well, Sammy, that is a great argument, but I think that there's some things that Alex just did better. Not to mention he actually played in the NFL, but we are basing it off of time at the U. Now, let's go over what Alex did before his professional career. 2-year starter, played 3 years at the University of Utah. Only started for 2 of those. But in those 2 that he started all the games, he was 21-1. Only lost 1 game as a starter. In 2004, he was the Mountain West Conference Offensive Player of the Year, finished 4th in the Heisman voting. This was the first ever Heisman finalist Utah had ever produced. He led Utah to victories in the 2003 Liberty Bowl and the 2005 Fiesta Bowl, where they finished the perfect season 12-0, ranked number 5 in the coaches poll and number 4 in the AP poll, and that was all under Urban Meyer. Now, to throw some of those statistics that we both love to talk about, this guy had a 66.3 completion rate. He threw for 5,203 yards, which I understand is less, but he only started 2 seasons.
And Brian started 3. Started 3 here at Utah.
47 touchdowns, only 10 touchdowns shy of Brian, and only threw 8 interceptions. 8. He only threw 8. He barely averaged 4. Yes, 4. He only averaged 4 a season when he started. That's incredible. To only turn the ball over that many times, that's why you're winning football games, is because the quarterback isn't losing the football.
Yeah. And going back to Brian, because we're throwing around honors, he is a 2-time Bowl MVP, the Poinsettia Bowl in 2007, and the Sugar Bowl. He was the 2008 Mountain West Offensive Player of the Year and a 4-time academic All-Mountain West Conference honoree. If you are out here killing it on the football field and in the classroom, you're a winner in my book.
Well, winners, it's good to win, but it's also good to be selected number 1 overall in an NFL draft, which Alex Smith, he holds that title. Number 1 pick in the 2005 NFL draft to the San Francisco 49ers. There's not a lot of people that can say that. But beyond that, Sammy, I was watching some film on Alex, and Brian is a great quarterback, but if I'm going into battle and I need someone to be throwing passes and scoring touchdowns and leading those Utes to victory, I'm going to pick Alex Smith because the guy had an absolutely crazy arsenal of his incredibly accurate arm. Some of the passes he made, especially in the 2005 Fiesta Bowl, were crazy. He would throw into double coverage and still complete the pass. And one of my favorite things that he did was the shovel pass. It's hideous. It looks ridiculous. But he got it done, and a lot of times they would get a lot of yards. They scored a touchdown off a shovel pass, like a 20-plus yard touchdown off a shovel pass. And the last thing that I really appreciate about Alex is I noticed he was willing to sacrifice his body, and he ran the football quite a bit. I mean, this isn't a Lamar Jackson-esque type player or a Cam Newton or any of those kinds of guys. This is Alex Smith, and he was running the football and getting first downs and moving those chains to win the game.
I think the biggest thing that I would argue for Brian Johnson is we finished the season ranked number 2. We beat Alabama. Yes, Alex Smith had a great and illustrious career at Utah, and he had all these accolades, and he was doing all this stuff, and he was drafted number 1 overall. We were ranked number 2. We beat Alabama, and that is something that the two of us appreciate so much, that we can actually say we are undefeated against Alabama. And I think Brian, he's just good. Yes, he didn't have the best career post, like trying to get into the NFL and trying to do like that stuff, but he's really successful now. Offensive coordinator at Florida, like he's making these moves and he is proving himself to be one of Utah's best alumni, in my opinion, that's not actively playing football right now. It's Brian. It's Brian. You can't. I don't know how else to convince you about this, but it's Brian Johnson.
Well, Sam, I think we can agree that these are both great quarterbacks.
Yeah, hands down.
I think the two that you would have the only two that you can argue are the best. I don't think anybody else really comes close. I mean, you can make arguments for other guys, but these two present the strongest resume of who wore the drum and feather best under center. Whether you incorrectly believe, Sammy, that Brian Johnson is it, or you go with a correct answer of Alex Smith, you can't be led wrong. Both these guys were fantastic. And something else that I love that both these guys did is they creamed BYU when they played them. Absolutely embarrassed the Cougars down south. And that is something that is just regarded so highly on a resume if you're a Utah player. But unfortunately, Sammy, we've come to the end of our show. Just a reminder, we are doing columns exclusively published with Sports Pac-12. Be sure to follow them at Pac-12 Sports and check out their website, sportspac12.com. Please also don't forget to follow us on social media on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Dash Sports TV. Also check out our website, dashsports.tv. And I think I actually made a mistake.
Yeah, the Sports Pac-12. Their Twitter handle is at Sports Pac-12.
There we go. Thank you, Sammy. That's why you're here. But we thank you guys for joining us this week. And as always, Sammy, go Utes.
Go Utes.